So, Vinita, welcome to BBR. You are the woman of BBR. So, let me ask you, let's, I, w- sorry, introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Shweta, for the opportunity. I'm Vinita Menon. I'm a clinical psychologist living in the suburbs of Chicago my whole life. I have a private practice in psychology, and I have a coaching business that focuses specifically on Indian women and all the different goals that we are totally able to achieve. But sometimes we need an ally, and that's what I hope to be for a lot of people.
Yeah. I love that, right? Like I was telling you before we started recording, our roles are in a little bit intertwined, right? Because yes, physical, mental, emotional health, it's all so connected. I totally get that. So when I started coaching, when I started coaching before I joined BBR, I was coaching women on my own. And I thought I would just give them macros and workouts and they would get results. I thought people were not getting results because they did not know what to do. And I coached 15 women for free. I hired a mentor. I was paying for the app. This was just for me, like internship for because this was all during COVID.
Mhm.
And except one, none of them did the work. And I was like, why? And I would call them and I'm telling them, why aren't you doing it? Do this, do it at 6 a.m., do it at 5 p.m. But it did not work. And then I was like, I looked into it, like, what is not working? And then that kind of brought me to this, like the psychology part of it. And that was mind blowing. So I
Yeah.
totally,
Yeah, I totally relate to that. I actually just said this to someone else in the psychology practice. There has to be a readiness for change, right? And I think that applies to the clients of BBR as well. And I can talk to you about psychological theory, and I can draw triangles and diagrams and explain the why. And you can very easily tell me like this is a better choice than this is, but then are you going to take the action steps that go with? Those are really hard, those, and being consistent with them.
yeah,
Those are the two
yeah,
things. Everyone knows right from wrong most of the time, but to move to action, very different. And
yeah,
so I think that's actually what makes BBR, my experience with BBR, pretty unique.
yeah. We do say that we want like people to be ready, willing, and able
Mm.
to commit to it, right? Yeah. Now, what were some challenges you were facing with your health journey? What brought you to BBR?
That's a great question. I have the classic Indian triad, I guess, of family history, with the checklist is long: diabetes and hypertension and high cholesterol and blah blah blah. So I'm pretty stubborn in many ways. My friends will tell you that like I want to do it before someone tells me I have to like give up sugar or something like that. So I wanted to be proactive. That's my nature, to get ahead of things. The other thing I think is pretty relatable is that wear a lot of different hats. I have a lot of different roles and responsibilities. I have kids and I have parents to care for, and I just am the go-to person for a lot of things. And I accept that responsibility, but I kept putting myself at the bottom of the list and I kept falling off the list. Um, True story, I forget to eat a lot, and like more confessions, the water bottle is full today, so you forget to um, do some basic things. I get lost in the other things that I'm supposed to do. And so that collided with COVID and shutdown, and we had a big health situation in the family, and I was like the key caregiver. So I already felt full, and then things just got more complicated. And so after like the health scare and all of that sort of calmed down, I thought, I this is really bad. I can't do this by myself. And so that's when I did the discovery call or the intro call and said, I don't really know what I need, but it's not really even like big health goals. It's just like I need to come back to like at least baseline and be like a person again. I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating right, or really anything. I wasn't drinking water, I wasn't taking steps. And so I was pretty nervous to sign up with for the call initially, and also the first connection with Amisha, because I was like, you don't understand. I can't like take on more things, so I don't know how to do this. So I had started a new business. There's a lot happening. So I, as most people, had plenty of excuses as to why they couldn't do certain things, right? So, but the tone, I kid you not, the tone and the confidence that, I think it's Anisha who did the initial call, and then Amisha later, as my coach, they just met me where I was. They're like, want to try to start practicing drinking water? We can start there. And I feel like oh my gosh, drinking water should be so basic. Or like, how about 100 steps, not 10,000, or whatever the numbers were at the time, So I'm like, okay, maybe. And then, like she was very patient with me and waited to talk, like even to like say the word macros or something much later, So I really appreciated just being met where I was. And I'm like, oh, this is why, like, this is what I do in my practice for other people, but I had not been on the receiving end of that. And then plus the content of the workbooks and the modules, with talking about that inner critic. And it was so well based in, because I could pick out the theories, the cognitive behavior theory and the Ursula inside and all of that. Like, I'm like, wow, this is spot on as a psychology professional, and I've taught grad school. And so like, it was really easy to see that it was based on some really good theory and science. And so I'm like, okay, this is great. Perfect. Let's go.
So sounds like, right? This is so relatable because I was talking to my sister-in-law yesterday and she lives in Austin. She's like, I want to say 10 years younger than me, but she does not take care of herself at all. Same thing, right? Last priority, kids and this and that. And sounds like you were dealing with that, right? Like exhaustion and being a caregiver and being the primary person, like it's not easy. Not even if somebody is sick, but that adds even more responsibility. And sounds like through all of it, when things come down, you're like, I think I need to give something to myself. I think I need to take care of myself. And that brought you here. And
Yeah.
What really resonated was how we met you where you were.
100%.
And that's what actually makes you might know, right? Like people successful is that gives us confidence that I can do it. It builds that inner self-esteem. It builds, and then you can scale up, because most people don't reach their goals, not because, like I said, they don't know what to do also, but it's also because they think they have to do 10,000 steps, 7 days a week, 6 workouts and 1,200 calories. And when they don't do that, they're like, oops, I suck and this sucks. So that means I'm not doing anything. But no, there's magic in small things as well. And it sounds like you learned that, or you knew that, but you finally put it in your picture.
Into my own picture. And yeah, and I like most of there, it was just a very difficult time that I was coming out of and not sleeping. And I'm like, well, if I don't sleep, how am I supposed to do this and that and the other thing? And so it was, I mean, there's obviously an interconnection among all the different. So if you stay up worrying about something and you're not sleeping, then you're like, I think I'll skip the workout today because I'm tired, and then it just keeps going. So it was really nice to have some support to break that pattern.
Yeah. I totally understand that. As a coach, I've seen that often as well. Cannot, like push it enough, sleep well, sleep on time. And my sleeping habits have improved since I've become a coach as well. So totally understand that. So why, I know you did a discovery call with Anisha, but why BPR? What made you gravitate towards BPR?
I felt like there was less to explain, like I didn't have to say, like, and just to back up a second, it's not that I need to eat Indian food every day. In fact, I don't eat or make Indian food every day, and I don't have specific restrictions or things like that. But I felt like I could, you would get me, like if I said, there's this thing going on for a daughter or a parent or something like that, then it was not a surface level excuse, because culturally there's an understanding how, it is really a collectivist culture, and, you have these different responsibilities, and, it wouldn't be seen as an excuse, but it also find a way to work within that, within the complexity of that. So that was definitely appealing. And honestly, I just thought it was really cool that it was a group of Indian women. I grew up in the US. I was the only like non-white person in the building until like 8th grade, so that it took a long time to find my community, so my parents were great about like helping us connect to other Indian families and, things like that. But, to have a whole business about it and have thousands of women and at this level of community, I wanted to be part of that. And in fact, that's why I have my own coaching business for the life part, not the nutrition or fitness part. For that same reason, we need to find our community. So that was very appealing.
Yeah. You know what I find surprising is I did not grow up here. I moved here when I was 32, 11 years ago. And what I felt was I felt very lonely. It is very isolating. But I never thought that someone who grew up here would also feel a sense of isolation.
Yeah, very interesting. Because if you go, I was just looking for that integrated place, I guess, because growing up, you're this or you're that. If I go to a party amongst like my high school or college friends, there's a certain part of me that I could show. If I went to like an Indian family party, then I was really American, so
You never fit in. Yeah, I can see that.
It's like, well, you wouldn't know about a Hindi movie. I'm like, well, yes, actually, I did just watch blah, 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 whatever it was, Rocky or Rani or whatever it was at the time, so it felt like, is this me? Is that me? And like, no, this is like all of me, so I made chicken curry this morning. I'm on a video call. I did some work with my ADHD clients. I did laundry. I mean, there's all the things that are wrapped up. I'm like a 360, person, right? Yeah. And I feel like that's the community that I was craving. So I found it here.
Yeah, like I said, right? It is surprising, but it is so true. What we think is not what the reality is. But thank you for choosing BBR, putting your trust in us, and being a big part of our community as well. So, few questions, right? Like, what do you feel? We spoke about your biggest challenges, right? Like, what do you feel you've changed since you've joined BBR? Like, how have you changed?
I'm not at the bottom of my list anymore, in a nutshell. So now I map out every week. It might be a different time of day depending on, like, I have a standing meeting at 9 on Wednesdays or 12 or whatever. But I find a place to map out, like, what am I doing and when am I doing it when it comes to the nutrition and the movement and the exercise. So it's not a negotiable anymore. It's moved to the non-negotiable. It gets plugged in just like a doctor's appointment or a client appointment, a session, things like that. So I've taken a strength of mine, which is being organized and being structured, and then inserted myself back into my own schedule. So that's probably the biggest change, is just like creating the space. And then, like you had mentioned before, we all know like the right things to do in the time, like, like, oh, I'm just gonna lay here and scroll, and there goes 30 minutes. But we know what we could do or should do in that, but it's creating the space for it first. So that's probably the longest lasting change. And then of course the specifics will vary, right? Depending on what kind of workout or what, like what kind of movement. Is it a travel day? Is it sit at your desk day? I'm laughing because when I started with Amisha, I'm like, I have to get a Fitbit. What? Like I have to wear something. Like I don't want to do this. And now, like I have an Aura ring, and like it's a natural part of like, oh, what are my numbers today? Like it's quite the evolution. Like my whole family was like, you bought a ring, okay? Because I don't like things on my wrist, but I'm like, oh, I could do this, and it's good enough, and it tracks my sleep, and I sound like the person I didn't want to be a while, or didn't think I could be, honestly, like I have to count my steps. What? So
Yeah.
that's quite a change.
You made my day just now, literally like my teenage daughter would do, by saying that you put yourself on the list. I mean, I love that, as like I was saying, I was talking to my sister-in-law yesterday, and she has this back pain. She's 2 years postpartum, and she has this back pain which is not going away. And I'm like, why don't you go to physical therapy? She's like, I went to physical therapy, and he took $25 a session, and then he for 6 weeks, and then he sent me $1,000 bill. I said, I can. You go to a pelvic health physical therapist, and she goes, you can you send me some things, but if they charge $100 or $125 an hour, I'm not going. And I was like, if it was your child and your child needed to go to doctor for $125, would they go? She said, yes. And I'm like, why not you then? As women, and especially as Indian women, we tend to do that. We tend to put ourselves, the total least. So the fact that you put yourself first, not, like in that list is beautiful.
On the list. Yeah.
On the list. And the
Yeah.
sounds like you were able to make time for yourself. Sounds like, you found a way to like travel day, and like otherwise you maybe it was like you didn't know, maybe this is something I might need to think about or plan. And yes, as in the first few weeks you need to plan, and then later on it just becomes easy.
It does become easy. And you touched on something with your sister-in-law and probably thousands of other people. Like our daughters, our kids watch our actions way more than they pay attention to our words.
Yes.
So if I say like, oh, you should eat your vegetables, or like whatever, but I'm not eating, or, not moving or whatever, how do I have that authority or credibility even, um, to make a suggestion, and it's not even just in the parent-child role. I'm a psychologist. I have to work on my own mental health and well-being. Exercise is a big part of that,
Yeah.
And again, we talk about all the science about dopamine and serotonin and throw out all those fancy things, but it does, you just feel better,
Yeah.
and I know that, and you sleep better. And then there's this whole pattern that occurs. And that's actually what's helped me do, my businesses have grown exponentially the second I started feeling better. I don't think that's a coincidence at all.
Yeah.
So it's
That's
huge.
100% true, right? Like sometimes if you want to move a step ahead, you have to take a step back and really do the work you need to do to set up that base, that foundation. And that's when you can grow. Otherwise, if you're not ready for it, and when you take care of yourself, like that 15 minutes break to take care of yourself makes you double more productive rather than you. Totally true. I understand that 100%. What are some changes you've made, right? Like you've seen that, you've changed, but what are those changes that you've made that those have enhanced your life, right? Like you've said that I was here and I'm here. What did you do in the middle?
In the middle, I think, you use the word pace, which I use a lot in both my coaching and my psychology, my therapy sessions, is we go at the client's pace. So at first it was about like just learning how to be consistent, even if it was like a 5-minute walk or a 10-minute walk, or one, container of water or whatever it was, one meal. And then, okay, what else can you, now let's like about half a step forward, half a step forward. How about 2 meals a day? Things like that. So the consistency has been a big change. And what I've noticed is if something happens that disrupts the routine, I get back on track very quickly now. So I had a travel day. I got home at midnight on Wednesday, and it was very easy to reset because I had a plan already. It was very easy to reset on yesterday and today, back to my like normal routine. The choices that I made when I was eating out, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I have to like order like the biggest, fanciest thing. Like I ate a lot of salads and I didn't feel deprived, or, it wasn't like that, like scarcity mentality, right? Of like, oh, this has to be like the best meal ever, and like, it's just a meal. And there will be another one, I refuse to eat airport food, but besides that, so, that those are, I think, the sustainability, the consistency, the shifting away from that scarcity mindset, and getting reset very quickly. Those are the things that have really stayed on, so other little goals will shift, like, going from, at some point weight loss to weight management, maintenance, or, what will the A1C number be? Like, wondering what that'll be like. And, those will be like interim goals, but the overarching is really just like, it's just a natural way of being. It's not this extra separate thing. It's really like a natural way of being, organic.
Sounds like, right? Like you found like a pace and a rhythm also to kind of find on how to live more holistically, if you may, right? Totally true. Not every day, not every meal needs to be a 10 on 10 on taste and all of that, right? At the end of the day, you need to nourish yourself, and you don't feel deprived. That's a big part of things as well, right? Like otherwise, who will, especially somebody who eats meat, who hasn't to eat salad. I'm not paying $15 to eat grass, is what I've heard in the past as well. So I
Yeah.
understand. Now, what do you love most about being on this journey?
About being what?
About like being on the journey, right? Like,
On the journey.
yeah, about like, what do you love the most?
Two things. I would say I love that if I take care of myself, then in a way, it's a different way of serving my kids. Like when they're little, we serve them by changing diapers and feeding and bath time and all of that. And when they're adolescents, I think you can relate, we serve them differently, like the emotional piece and like the social, how to be. But over time, I'm both. I'm the adult daughter and taking care of my parents, and I'm also like a parent myself. So really, like, my parents had a great example of really being disciplined and taking care of themselves, and they've made it easier, still challenges, but they've made it easier for me. And I've seen a lot of examples where throughout their life people just eat and drink and do whatever they want, and then they're a pretty big mess in their 60 plus years, if they get to that. So I don't want to do that. If I can help it, like things happen, accidents happen, and stuff like that, but the unexpected happens. But whatever is in my control, I really want to do it, because I think I'm paying it for my kids, and I get to enjoy it now. So I think it's like a dual thing.
Yeah. I love that because I believe in that as well, right? I do believe that the best thing you can do for your children is take care of yourself. Because it helps you show up as a healthier and a happier version of yourself. You're not somebody who's like, low energy, or somebody who's frustrated. That you're a better mom at the end of the day. And in my work, I've seen so many women who've changed how they show up for their kids. I've seen that, right? So I love that. And you are right. When you are 30 and somebody who takes care of themselves versus somebody who doesn't, you might not see a difference. But when somebody is 60, there is a difference. 100% true. You said there are two reasons, right? One was because you wanted to, what was the other reason?
That was the main one. And the other one is, I have a lot of ambitions, and I have a lot of things that I'm still trying to figure out professionally. And I'm really excited about that. And this physical health is the true foundation for all of those other adventures that I get to be on, So I want it's like an insurance policy, right? So I want the chance to pivot and do a whole bunch of things. I feel like I still have a lot to offer with the new business as well. And I think that helps with having this really good foundation. And it is calming. It's deeply calming to have a plan and to have like a track to be on, to know what the right things to do are, and the fact that I can do it, I'm able to do it. And, for if anyone is listening to this and sounds like, oh, that seems really ambitious and too far away for me, this is not where I started at all. And I just want to really emphasize that, like, the initial, I laugh now about some of the initial conversations. Like, Amisha, those are too many steps. I can't do this. I'm like, how much water do I need to drink? I can't do that. So it's like too much. She's like, all right, and she was so sweet and very patient and, just very genuinely encouraging, and never made me feel like, because I was listening for it, never made me feel like, oh, come on now, like never, ever, ever had that tone. And so I was waiting for it. I'm like, she's going to be like, oh my gosh, can you just drink the water? But no, so that's been, I really want to emphasize that it's not like, BBR and the services are not like for like the sporty people or the athletic people or, like the people who are already inclined. It's really for your regular person, who like my husband loves to play tennis and he enjoys it and he thinks it's fun. I'm like, I want nothing to do with that, and he's like, oh, vegetables are yummy. Yay, let's eat a salad. And like, it's easy to do things if that's in your nature to do it, right? So, but the coaching accelerator really helped take something that I knew it was the right thing to do. I didn't really want to do it. I just wanted all this magic to happen, but shift over to like doing it because it feels natural. It doesn't have to feel exciting. It just feels good and right.
You lean into how it makes you feel rather than, you realize that if I do this, I feel good. And we want to do more of things that make us feel good for sure.
Right.
Yeah. I love that
So
you're so ambitious and you sound like you're a go-getter and, oh, that's amazing. I'm so inspired. Like I'm really inspired. Thank you for that. Now, what is
absolutely.
something who's watching, who does not have a coach? What is something they can do for themselves? Where can they start? What can they do? What do you want them to know?
I think it all goes back to making space, creating space in your day and in your mind, about like one commitment, like what, you don't have to do. You don't have to run a marathon. You don't have to run a mile, just pick something and do it every single day. A glass of water when you first get up. A walk around the block before you go get your car after work. Just one thing. And then you start to link that to the next thing. Like, oh, well, I could actually eat breakfast or pack a breakfast or, eat it in the car, whatever. So pick one thing, but don't pick the thing that feels out of reach. So I pick the low-hanging fruit first. This is what I tell my psychology clients. I'm like, if that is hard for you, let's not go there first. What's the least hard thing, or what's the, as they say, the low-hanging fruit? Like, what can you like get close to? And pick that, get really solid, consistent with that before you layer like the next thing. What they are. What you're like, yeah, I could sort of do that. One chapati instead of two, whatever it is, but I would start there. And if you can't, it's great to have a community. It's great to have a personal coach. But if that feels out of reach, you can at least do what's in your control, and do the thing that's easy first, not the thing that's hard.
Yeah. I think that should be on a t-shirt, do the thing that's easy, not
imagine t-shirts. Yeah.
We all are like programmed to want to do the hard things first. And then when that fails, they're like, this doesn't count, but 100% true. Now,
being high achieving and being ambitious is in our DNA. Yeah. So, yeah.
And then when that fails, that means we are failures and we do nothing.
Right.
Now, we touched upon this, just now you said that, coaching or all of this is an investment. Why should someone invest in this? What do you think? I mean, well, is it worth it to you? Why?
But the options are you either pay medical bills and prescription bills, or you pay for health, and I would much rather pay for, a lot of times, actually, when I back up a second, a lot of times I watch different like business coaching models and things like that, and people say, other teachers say, oh, people will buy painkillers more than they'll buy vitamins. Like you'll buy something to stop the pain versus something that's good for you. I, as a person, disagree with that completely. I get why it sells, I do. But as a person, I would much rather pay for a really good protein powder, or, coaching, or the Aura ring, or, like something like that, versus like, well, it's $2,000 for the CT scan and the, whatever. So, and then you need to do, here, would you like to be on the statin? I think you should be on the statin for your cholesterol and like, all the stuff. So that all costs money too. It costs money and time and some discomfort. Like medicine has its side effect, right? Headaches and cramps and body ache, is pretty common with a statin. Well, guess what? You might have body ache after you do a bunch of crunches and sit-ups and, all of that too. Like I'd rather have one more than the other.
Yeah.
That's where I would put that.
Yeah. True, right? Like even on doctors' offices, I've seen it written, like I grew up in India and it was written that health is the most undervalued thing, but the most, people regret that the most in a way. Now, maybe a last couple of questions. What do you love about BBR and about your coach? Amisha.
Oh, I could go on about Amisha for a bit, but BBR itself, I think the community and the accessibility, like the number of different models that you have between the Fit Women Collective all the way up to the individual coaching, and many, combinations of that really, I think, have emphasized, and then so much just through the Facebook group and things like that, accessibility. And like the equivalent of that in psychology is like offering like concierge service to like a sliding scale, or free service, or pro bono work. So there's that range, which I admired as just as a business value, seemed very much in alignment to what I do. And then about Amisha specifically, we were in very different places, like, in terms of ages of our kids and families and stuff like that. But she understood how much I was juggling, and how like there would be like one more thing that was gonna like make me fall down, like, and so she stayed somehow very intuitive and stayed just shy of me feeling overwhelmed, or yes, I signed up, but at the same time, I was honestly a little nervous. Like I'd never done like coaching. Like I've gone to, in person, like personal training, but not this like nutrition, lifestyle, and physical, like all together. So and plus I was coming out of just a really bad, depleted, feeling very depleted. So again, she met me right where I was, and it didn't feel like back in gym class or something like that, so yeah, so she's amazing. So
Yes, she is. I mean, and she is that powerhouse, right? Like at the same time, you give her some BS and she will not take it also. Like you're right, she's very intuitive.
yeah.
She's empathetic, but at the same time, she is not a pushover 100%. Yeah, and she
No,
knows how to
no,
give it.
I tried and she didn't.
I love that. Now,
I'm sure, and credit goes also to Anisha, because she was like, I think you'd be a good match. Like she was intuitive too, and like figuring out who the right match would be. So I get the feeling that everyone has their coach is their favorite coach, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I'm sure you hear that, because, and that match is important too. And that's true in psychology when I talk to different people and I say like, I think you'd be a good match for this colleague of mine or that one. They don't all come to me. And I think that the match is very important because you're doing very difficult work in your
yeah.
sessions.
That's true. We always tell Anisha that, Anisha, I don't know how, but you have the knack for like pairing us with the right people.
Mhm.
And Anisha almost takes it as a moral obligation, right? For example, if I kind of have an issue with someone I'm working with and I go to her, she literally is like apologizes. I'm like, I'm so sorry she did this to him. Like, no, 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 it's not you. And, but yeah, she takes that role very seriously. And you're right that most of our clients, their coach is their favorite person. 100%
Mhm.
true.
Isn't that cute? Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah. What is something people don't know about you?
About me, I like to say that if you play two truths and a lie with me, I will always win because, you know, because people don't guess. Like, not everybody knows that I went skydiving. And people, if I use that as the two truths and a lie, now I can't play with you because but like people are like, oh no, she would not, like she wouldn't have done that. That's that I love thrill rides and roller coasters and things like that. That people wouldn't know that. Like they think, oh my god, so sweet, like
Yeah.
calm, and
You're
she's
the
like,
achhi bachi, the good girl. You don't do things
oh,
like
very
that. Yeah.
firstborn daughter, all that stuff. Yeah. So, but yeah, I like my thrill rides.
Yeah.
So
I cannot. I mean, my daughter loves them, but I do not know how. I'm like, they make me feel that way, and I don't like feeling that way. I don't understand it, but I'm so glad that it's you and it's not me. But she took me on a couple rides a couple years back, and I was sitting and shouting, "Mummy, mummy," through all of it, and she's like, "Mom, you quiet."
you're the mummy.
No, I'm talking for no for my, like I was like, I can't, and it was like on a scale of 1 to 10, it was a 3, and I couldn't take that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Love
thank
it.
you so much, Vinita, for being here, for really making my day, right? Like, this is why we do what we do. This is, you know, for like literally, it's like throwing, I'm sure as a therapist, you understand that, right? It's like you throw the pebble and you see like the water move, like that's why we do what we do, because we see the difference. Yes, people come to us to lose weight, but we did not talk about weight even one time in the last 30 minutes. So yes, when we take care of ourselves, when we find joy in the movement, things like weight and all, like a side effect, your body composition changes, you become healthier, and you're not even thinking about it as much. So sounds like you kind of did all the right things and for all the kind of the right reasons which spoke to you. So I love that a lot. Thank you so much. I'm going to end this recording
Okay.
and we can continue talk.